Hey, did you see that Ford was building a GT3 race car? Yeah, it's pretty cool, but I kind of wish it was a street car too. I love the body lines of it. Oh, they did. Hey guys, before we get started with today's video, I just want to give a huge thanks to today's sponsor, DraftKings. And I've teamed up with DraftKings to let you guys know about a $10 million prize pool, which is DraftKings' largest best ball contest ever. Best ball lets DraftKings players score big all season long. Teams are assembled through standard fantasy draft models, and that roster is used for the entire season. That means there's no roster management to worry about, and there's no crossover between teams that you would typically find in a DFS contest. And prizes are paid out at the end of the season. To start playing best ball, go ahead and download the DraftKings app, sign up using the code ThatDudeinBlue, enter DraftKings Best Ball $10 million contest, and draft your team for the season. And each week you'll automatically rack up points with all your top scorers. No ads, drops, trades, or I should have played him instead. You'll be able to enjoy the fantasy football action without having to manage your team. And the team with the most points at the end of the season will come home with a $1 million top prize. So what are you waiting for? Head to the DraftKings app and sign up with the code ThatDudeinBlue and start playing best ball today. Only on DraftKings with code ThatDudeinBlue. Talk about coming out of absolute nowhere. Thankfully, I got to drive the brand new S650 Mustang, and it was a great time. Here's the good stuff right now. I haven't been able to drive the Dark Horse quite yet, but honestly, this is crazy. However, the GT3 race car of the new Mustang I thought was spectacular. I love the body lines of it, how aggressive it was. I love the front fascia. I thought it was just a good looking race car, and it made me really stoked that it was actually going to happen. But I really wanted that body style as the road car. I think that would really get people to fall in love with this new Mustang generation if that was a thing. But that's just fantasy. Until the other day. So a few days ago, a leak happened of the Mustang GTD, which I then asked multiple sources I know in the industry, is this thing real? And lo and behold, they all said, yes, but don't say anything. Basically, I had confirmation that this thing was real, and all there was rumors. And then Ford finally bit the bullet and unveiled the car. Actually, I think they were supposed to unveil it this Saturday, but due to the leak, they were just like, let's get this over with. So the Mustang GTD, man, that is a tongue twister, is actually on the Mustang S650 platform, but has quite a bit of differences. So what makes it different from the Mustang S650 and also the GT3 race car? Which, by the way, side note, since it's actually on this platform, it doesn't have to do as many crash tests, which is really cool because this, yes, is a road-going car. It will be street legal, which is pretty insane. With the S650, it shares the pillars, the glass, the floor pan, but if you're trying to compare this to the Dark Horse, it's not even in the same realm. Like, it's not even the same playing field. Probably the biggest difference of the GTD is the rear axle transmission, and also its braking power and suspension systems from Multimatic, which, by the way, Multimatic is absolutely incredible, and I actually got to drive the Bronco DR at King of the Hammers, and that had Multimatic suspension, and I got to jump it. It was a wonderful time, but it really showed me the talent of these guys at Multimatic. Unbelievable engineers. So when I heard that they worked on this car, I was like super stoked about it. By the way, another side note, I got really sick for 5 days of a fever of 101 degrees. Then I got a cough that was really gnarly. And then I accidentally slept with my contacts in. So I have an eye infection in this eye. So just falling apart slowly. That's why my voice is raspy. The process of buying it though is most likely gonna be a very similar process to getting the Ford GT a few years back. Actually, no, that wasn't a few years. That was 2016. Time freaking flies. But point of the matter is, you'll probably have to apply for it, get an allocation, tell Ford how you're gonna use it, if you're actually gonna race it at the racetrack or sell it as a collector item. it's gonna be the whole thing. Also, shout out to Wade, who let me drive his Ford GT, which was a fantastic experience. But why am I bringing up the Ford GT? Some people theorize, well, maybe it'll have the EcoBoost engine from the Ford GT, the twin-turbo EcoBoost V6 engine, which way back in the day, when the 2015 Mustang was being unveiled, there was theories about that also having a 3.5 model, which actually turned into the 2.3 instead. The 3.5 engine was similar to what was in the Taurus SHO, which is a really funny sleeper, but at the same time, the theory was if they put that good of an engine in the Mustang that it might take away sales from the V8. But no, they went full Murica in this thing. It uses a 5.2 liter supercharged V8, which I'm assuming is basically a beefed up version of the Predator engine that is in the oh so glorious Shelby GT500. And we've also seen these engines take massive punishment. I recently just drove a 1200 wheel twin turbocharged GT500 and it was a bone stock engine and it didn't even break a sweat. Ready? First gear. So naturally, as a race car, for it to be pushing 800 horsepower, the thing's a beast. That engine is spectacular. I absolutely love it. And the red line is going to exceed 7,500 RPM. We don't have an exact number quite yet, but it's gonna exceed 7,500, which is really fantastic. So with the braking, the cooling, the suspension, the aerodynamics, Ford is actually taking this car and aiming for a sub 7-minute Nürburgring time, which is absolutely bananas. To give you perspective, that is along the lines of a McLaren P1, a Aventador SVJ, a Porsche GT2 RS. So we're talking big dogs that they're going after. But honestly, with what we've learned so far, with how the car works, I think it's doable. I think the car could do it, in theory. Also, the car has active aerodynamics that are very similar to DRS in Formula One for straights. So when the car goes into a straight line, you can activate the active aero, which gives it better straight line speed. And then once you're back to cornering, you can add more aero, essentially, in a very simplistic nutshell, which is funny because that's not even legal in the GT3 class that this car is based on. So in a lot of ways, the road car is faster than the race car, which is hilarious. And also with the rear axle transmission, that actually makes the Mustang GTD 50-50 weight distribution. Mustangs nowadays, don't get me wrong, they can handle just fine. They actually handle pretty well. If you're new to the party and you're kind of an American car hater, the days of old 60s and 70s and 80s muscle cars or even 90s muscle cars not handling, that is long gone. That's not even really a problem anymore. With the Mustang S650 especially, it handles fantastic. The steering input's really good. But with this one, having the 50-50 weight distribution, oh my gosh, Ford, if you are listening, I want to drive this thing so bad on track. I got my racing license, if that helps, and I won my first race when I entered my radical class for my first time ever. Is it working? Anyway, I would love to have a go in this thing. This thing sounds absolutely incredible. Also, I typically don't like big chunky wheels or big spoke wheels. It has this really aggressive and intimidating kind of wheel setup with like 325s up front. It's insane, it's amazing. Okay, so we've kind of gone through the technical aspects of the car. What about the appearance? What do I think of it? Honestly, guys, I think they knocked it out of the park. If you gave an engineer the S650 platform and the GT3 race car and they said, blank check, do whatever you want, I think this is the result. I don't know if it gets better than this for a modern Mustang. I mean, it looks fantastic. I love it. The wide body looks very natural. The front fascia is super aggressive. I love the look of the rear deck lid where GTD sits. And the wing integration near the rear windshield, I think is so awesome. It kind of gives Koenigsegg vibes with the Jesko, because if you look at the Jesko, the wing isn't like where the trunk would be. It's above it near more the roof line, and it sticks out and hangs. And that's basically what this one does. And I think that is just the coolest thing in the world. I love that kind of stuff. Also, the cooling or the aerodynamic fenders, they're these super aggressive gills on the side, and it doesn't look tacky somehow. Like, I felt like this car, without it being engineered specifically from the GT3 race car, it could have been like super tacky with like way too much stuff tacked onto the car. It looks very freeform, it looks very natural, but also very aggressive. And honestly, I think it really shows that the S650 platform can be an extraordinarily good looking car with some modifications of the front fascia and the rear fascia. I'm not saying that the S650 is ugly, but I just like the look of this better. In fact, I would not be surprised in the future if the S650 or whatever the next Mustang is, if it gets a facelift. I will not be surprised if there's influence from this in this front fascia that kind of trickles down to the next production Mustang in a few years, to where the feedback of this is so good and they're like, you know what, maybe we can kind of trickle this down. And hopefully, what I really want out of this is to trickle down the transmission technology to the road car. Because if we can get that rear axle transmission in the road car, well, okay, this is a road car, but you know what I'm trying to say. The normal S650 Mustang GT or GT500 or Mach 1, whatever they plan on building, if that car that's more accessible to the general public gets 50-50 weight distribution, oh my God, I'd be in heaven, absolute heaven. And honestly, the online feedback is pretty good. I don't really see a lot of negative feedback, and people are sharing this thing like crazy, which is perfect for kind of publicity and PR for Ford to do something of this caliber. Now, the hard part to hear is that it's $300,000, so no, it's not gonna be accessible to the general public. Like we said, it's probably an allocation process or application process, very much like the Ford GT, but who knows, in the future, like I said, maybe this car will be so good that it'll be kind of a lesson with Ford's engineer team or Ford Performance's engineering team or Multimatic's engineering team to trickle down this new technology that they R&D'd and trickle it down to the other models. Also, side note, I wish I knew that they were testing at Road Atlanta, because that's my home track, because then maybe I would have gotten to see it. Because a bunch of the footage is them racing at Road Atlanta, which is really cool to see. But with the expensive price, I hate to say it, but I think it's one of the few times where I heard the price and I was bummed, but I also said, oh, well, that kind of makes sense. With the amount of R&D, the GT3 program, and all the time and effort put into this thing with the active aero and the Multimatic suspension and the transmission and the motor setup, I get it. I understand why it's so expensive. Justifiably, which I thought I would never say. The Bronco DR, which Multimatic had a big part of, that was, I think, $250,000 or so. I might have to look that up, but when you drove it, you understood why. It just worked, it did its job well, and it felt fantastic. And it's a race car. So, thoughts on the new Mustang GTD? God, that's so hard to say, GTD. Let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate all of you guys stopping by today's video. And if you don't mind, hit that like button. It really helps me out in the algorithmic world. And I typically upload on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. And I will see you guys next time. Take it easy. And I'm sorry that I still sound like this, so please be patient. See you guys next time. Have a good one.